33. Devianco come in the defense of Dr. Gordon Flanco, saying, the doctor has nothing to be blamed for. Next time we will set a guard for the night. Perhaps you could want to be the first volunteer? They ain't sleeping in the open, as the parts of the hut were scattered all around and in the dark. In the morning, they marched till noon, finding then a stream of clear water and also some fig-like fruits that they eat with pleasure. Listen. I heard noises. Over there. Wandru signaled with a finger. They walked in that direction and soon they were looking at a series of tents, not more than a dozen. Chapter 5. The Tribesmen. Look. Huts. Their builders must be humans. Dr. Gordon Flanco murmured, walking daringly out of the forest. The huts were made of thatched wood plastered with dried mud. The people there was of a brownish color, males and females over the meter and 60 centimeters high, dressed with leather tunics. The women shrieked and the men not more than 6 in number takes their lances and pointed at Dr. Gordon Flanco, speaking in an unknown language. 34. Ramber takes a large stick, saying, come on, boys, don't show them any fear. And so, the rest followed him, lining up at the side of the doctor. A light man appeared coming from the farthest tent, and realizing the newcomers were of the white race, as himself he said, hey, hey. Stop and don't acute accent fight. And added some more words in the language of those tribesmen, who reluctantly pointed their lances to the ground. Come on, strangers. Have no worries. Here I am the chieftain. And laughed. He was dressed just like the rest of the brownish people, only he was taller and at his belt a huge metal knife was showing. We are only passing by, my good fellow. How it is that you are in such a company? Dr. Gordon Flanco asked. The man, whose eyes were dark green, replied, in acute accent, the only company in 100 kilometers around. But just tell me, what are you doing in this forsaken part of this world? In acute accent, a long story, my friend. I am Dr. Gordon Flanco, and these are my companions in misfortune. We have walked for days on end, and we are hungry and thirsty. I will thank you enormously, if you could help us in this. Dr. Gordon Flanco said. The man looked at the natives, who still were there, and replied, sorry, but you must wait for the night. In acute accent, a bad habit for these people to eat in daylight. They are sure to want Ilona, their deity, and whore to see them eating with the light of day. 35. And no drinking water? Ramber asked. No drinking water either. Have patience. And now, let me present myself, by acute accent Alfrenko, former scout from the kingdom of Stonadum. And bowed. With that gesture on his part, the natives went about their works, not giving more attention to the newcomers. Alfrenko looks at the natives and said, see, I have plenty of control over these poor souls. But come with me, into my hut. Not good to show yourselves much to the eyes of these natives. They dread white skin. They associate it with phantoms of the forest. Once at his hut, they saw a woman in a corner. Odine. Look what I found. Pale faces just like you and me. Alfrenko said, in a joyful manner. The woman replied, with a strange accent, good, for you. Long time wishing this. Yes. Well, sit down and have some refreshments. By acute accent am here, where no native are allowed to enter without my permission. Alfrenko assured them, passing them a mug with water. Well, thanks my friend. We really need some water. Dr. Gordon Flanco commented. 36. I am here, since my group of explorers was attacked by a group of Rhedosaurus. I run to the woods, and as those beasts were after me, I descended to the canyon's a place full of rock towers, a mighty spectacle. I suppose you already see, coming from the north. Alfrenko mentioned. Yes, we saw it, but we decided not to descend since there is no water nor food in there. Roxo said, taking a sip of that water. Oh. Yes, no prey to catch down there. But believe it or not, there is a big river at the bottom. I have seen it. Alfrenko mentioned. And so, you belong to a kingdom? And where it could be found? several hundred kilometers from here, a nice walled city, you know. A strong defense against the titaniferous ellipsis points that lives in crevices at the ragged mountains. Alfrenko said. Big ones? Very big and ferocious. They are abundant and I am unable to risk my life for a second time. Alfrenko said. Watra looked at Wandru, saying, so we are stuck in here? We always can try to go around those beasts. Wandru replied. Ha, ha. No way, partner. There are enormous mountains between this forest and the beasts. Pity but true. You are stuck in here, but sorry to say, these natives eat only when they hunt, and I tell you, animals in this zone are small in size, except those very tall Ugaringus, Girafatin. Alfrenko commented. I suppose we could sleep here? Dr. Gordon Flanco asked. I will talk with the natives, so they prepare you another hut. I acute accent am kind of a chief in here, but their tradition is stronger. It must be a majority to decide on who stays and who must to leave before night. Alfrenko said. Very good, please ask them before nightfall. Ramber said. As Odine was taught to speak in the universal language, Dr. Gordon Flanco said, and you are also from that kingdom your husband said? This he said, notwithstanding that woman was not quite white. Oh, no. I was born here. He arrives here and chooses me as her wife. We are together since his arrival. Odine explained. And it's safe to live in here? At this camp? Devianco asked. 38, not much. Since I remember, my tribe has wandered many times at different places. Ellipsis points. They say we were many more in the tribe, and that now we are so many less. Ellipsis points. This, because the ferocious animals hunt us. Odine said, smiling to Lem, who approaches her and gives her a brilliant piece of copper, brought from when captive. Oh, it acute accent s beautiful. It acute accent s for me? She asked, looking at the small object. Yes, it comes from very far in the mountains. Devianco said, caressing her hand. Beware, Lem. We don't acute accent to want any trouble. Dr. Gordon Flanco warns him. I acute accent am doing nothing wrong, doctor. Don't acute accent you get nervous. Lem said, and keep on talking to that woman. Ellipsis points. The rest of the men become dozing, not paying attention to that conversation. At dusk, Alfrenko arrives to the hut, and said, very well, friends. I have good news for you. There will be a hut for you all, and you are invited to dinner. How good is that? Some of us are very hungry. Dr. Gordon Flanco said. Well, follow me. Only one recommendation, do not address the natives. They don't acute accent to speak our language, and they could heard what you have never said. They went out the hut, and saw a long table where some dishes were being located. The scant women in town were sprinkling the food with some seeds. Seat. Alfrenko said, and they all sit around the table. They waited until he begins taking parcels from the dish and they all imitate him. Oh, how good, meat. Watra murmured, munching the piece he takes, but there were also edible fruits and seeds, that serves to fill the portions, as the meat was small in quantity. After the dishes become emptied, the natives went to their huts and Alfrenko said, well, boys, I will show you the hut. Well, good night. And remember, that in 2 days you must leave the tribe. Alfrenko said. The hut was humid and bare. Gordon Flanco said, we better find a place of our own. This place is an acute accent appropriate. They walked past the last hut, namely, Mr. Alfrenko acute accent S hut, and finding several trees, they make a shelter to pass the night. That was an acute accent humid and stale, as they offered by the tribesmen. Ellipsis points. At midnight Devianco felt the need to go out and piss, so he leaves the shelter, where everyone was asleep. 40. As there is no moon on planet Gemini Beta 3, his eyes barely see, and approaching Alfrenko acute accent S hut, he began to release ellipsis points. He may have produced some kind of noise, because somebody went out the hut and looks in his direction. Ellipsis points and then approaches. Who are you? A feminine voice asked. He recognized Odine acute accent's voice. "It acute accent's me, Lem," he replied. She touches his chest, saying, "What are you doing here? Coming for me?" He smelled her scent and grabs her in his arms, saying, "Yes, Odine. You are so beautiful." In fact, she wasn't acute accently so beautiful, but Lem has been without female company for months, and in his brain any female was beautiful, if compared with a male ellipsis points. He kissed her with passion, and then she said, "Not in here. We are too close to a Alfrenko acute accent's hut." And guided to a spot with long grass ellipsis points they loved almost until dawn, and then Odine asked, "Do you want me to be with you?" "Yes, it acute accent's all I want," Lem replied, happily. "Then we must leave the tribe," Odine murmured in his ear. "I'm prone to do that. Alfrenko told me that the tribesman wants us out in the lapse of 2 more days." Lem said, "Yes, it acute accent's our tradition. So, let acute accent's depart right now, because I know where to hide," Odine said. "But what about my companions? I should advise them, so we can get together later," he mentioned. "You better not. That old man ellipsis points the doctor ellipsis points will put obstacles. We better go right now, before dawn." She pressed on, so Lem followed her, that seemingly was more able than him to see by night. 41. When full daylight come, they were 3 kilometers away, and 5 to the minute. Alfrenko awakes. He saw there was nobody but him in the hut, and went out thinking that Odine was somewhere close doing her physical necessities ellipsis points. With the passing of minutes, he became worried and went to the hut where supposedly were sleeping the white men ellipsis points. Finding it empty, he began running and yelling Odine acute accent's name, awakening everyone. He explains what he thought was the fact that the white men kidnapped his wife. Every male began to help in the search, finding the newcomers were at a shelter in the woods. "Where is my wife? Answer me," he yelled to the group. "Calm down, man. We know nothing about your wife," Ramírez yelled back. "But she is not at the tribe." "Where is she?" Alfrenko asked, very upset. 42. Leaving the tribe. As he was realizing the newcomers were an acute accentee in the know, he ordered the natives to begin a wider search, and departs with a couple of them to the north side. Dr. Gordon Flanco murmured, "Anyone knows where Devianco is?" And the men looked him in surprise, while Roxo suddenly said, "The rascal! I saw talking to the girl, as a lover does. Certainly she is now with him." Ramírez clapped his hands together, saying, "So, we better leave, pronto. I don't acute accently want to be here when Alfrenko comes back empty-handed." "But where to go? Remember we cannot retrace our steps, or we will die of hunger. And to the south there are dangerous animals," Roxo said. "We better risk going south anyway. They don't acute accently want us here," Wandru said, grabbing a stick and beginning to walk. They fastened pace, and fortunately, they don't acute accently cross paths with any tribesmen, and by noon they were 20 kilometers away, and inside a refreshing forest. "I will climb a tree, to see if we are going south or what," Ramírez said, and when climbing, he found several nests with eggs ellipsis points at the top and swaying with the breeze. He saw that the forest stretched to all sides, and there was the main star, shining brightly. 43. After a while, he descended carrying 2 eggs that were slurped by the rest. "We are away from mountains, as I believe. We must keep on," Ramírez said. "I wonder where Lem is. Must have walked in this same direction," Dr. Gordon Flanco said, massaging his feet. They hear a rumor of feet, and stand in the alert ellipsis points. A group of Brontosaurus juvenile passed by, at a trot. After they gone, Dr. Gordon Flanco said, "Why they were in such a hurry? Perhaps some carnivore was spotted by them." Ramírez start walking, saying, "We better follow those big-necked ones." And his suggestion was accepted instantly. Ellipsis points. Half an hour later, they found fruits lying on the ground, spheres of a green color. Wandru cut one in half and tasted it. It acute accent as a watermelon-like fruit. Let us eat, he said, and they all replenished their stomach with that sweet substance. They also noticed several brontosaurus eating leaves, not 200 meters away. The beasts looked at them without suspicions. We should stay here for the night. Seems to be an agreeable spot, the doctor said. They built a shack and later on, they made a bonfire, to get warm. The brontosaurus gives some trumpet-like sound, but didn't acute accent go away. 44. Meanwhile, Lem and Odine were walking to the east side, and when the night comes, she said, we must to hide. My people certainly know every path. I saw mountains to the east. How are we going to keep on going? Lem asked. I know that there is a path, but also that we must carry food and some water. I know where to find eggs. With them we will survive, she said, and they made a hole among the roots of a big tree and put a wooden fence on top, covered with many leaves and branches. Inside they slept, embraced to get warm. Lem was astonished to realize how quick the woman has accepted him instead of Mr. Alfrenko, and also realized that Odine could do the same with another man, if available. At midnight she wakes him, murmuring, you were snoring. I don't acute accent take care of it, if in a safe place, but in here it's dangerous. Oh, I acute accent am sorry but your people should be sleeping at this hour. Lem said. She kissed him and said, you don't acute accent know them. They could walk by night, hunt and come back to camp, as it was daylight. So, Lem only dozed until the morning when she whispered, let us keep going. We have a long way to go. And in doing so, Lem asked, I wonder why we are going to the mountains, if we could march south. She denied with her head, saying, not good going south. Too many Rhedosaurus. Mean beasts, with acute fears and never-ending hunger. All right, I get it. Lem said, convinced. When out of the forest, the mountains were there, as a green wall, because vegetation was powered by mist and rains. When beginning the climb, she looks at the forest and said, tribesmen. Where? Lem said, startled. There. Near the white trees. See now? She points with her stretched arm, and Lem looks at the mountains, saying, we must climb without a pause. Or else, they will catch with us. Odine said, they are 3 men. One of them is Alfrenko. If he gets me, possibly he will kill me. Lem takes her by the hand and they begin climbing, so the pursuers become difficult to spot. The air becomes fresher when ascending, and at mid-afternoon they were climbing over rocks and boulders. Are you sure you know where we are heading? Lem asked, bathed in sweat. Yes. But we will give it ear. They will think I acute accent am only walking by the known paths. Odine said, and 1 hour later, she turns left, and begins to get around that mountain, a thing that wasn't acute accent easy, as there were many boulders in the way. Look. A crevice. We will stay in there. Odine said, pointing to a crack in a rock. They found a cave 2 meters wide and 3 meters long after the crack on that rock. A perfect shelter. Seems we will be protected from the wind in here. Lem said, kissing her. Soon afterwards come the darkness over the land. The silence was dense inside that cave. At midnight they heard rocks tumbling down. Odine said, I guess they are above us. Somebody stomps into a loosened rock. Hope he went down with it. Lem said, grabbing a stone, just in case somebody appears at the entrance. 1 hour later, they heard a voice calling Odine, so she embraces him, saying, I will never leave you. Lem embraces her, waiting for the worst, but nobody comes. With the light of day, they keep on going round the mountain and then they were looking at the other side. At the mountains. 46, what a sight. The expanse, the mountains. Are you sure we could cross this mountain chain? Lem asked. She smiled and said, there are a pass, where we will repose. Just follow me. Odine said, keeping on her advance. At midday that mountain was at their back, and climbing another. Here they were through trees, so they could refresh their throats and ease their hungry. I wonder where is Alfrenko? Lem said. She munched on an orange-like fruit, replying, where else? Turning around that first mountain. I am almost sure he believes me not able to keep on going. And Lem in his inner self wished he was an acute accent to right. That night they slept among the bushes, and it was bitter cold. No sounds but the wind was heard, and she asks for love that Lem was happy to give. At dawn, after eating more fruits, they departed, carrying sticks to help walking over so many pebbles that replenished the slopes. Lem looked at the upper parts of the mountains, where millions of small stones were waiting for an earthquake to come tumbling down in an avalanche of dirt and stones. For 3 days they were climbing and descending mountains, until they saw a stream running down by the slope. They went there and drank of it. Nice water but very cold. Lem said. It acute accent S, because that it comes from the ice that acute accent S melting. But let us keep on. We haven't acute accent T arrived yet, she urged, walking by the side of that stream. They saw a big Bionic walking away by the same side of the stream, so they took cover and she said, let him go away. They walked faster than any of us. All right. No need to get hurry. Lem said, panting. 47. A spider sprouted from the soft earth and she stomped on it, saying, bad bitch. Poisonous. Half an hour later, they returned walking unto nightfall. They built a refuge with brambles and leaves and stayed there in silence. Lem heard his own stomach grumbling and it was, because he has an acute accent eaten in all day. He assumed he could fasten for several days, only, if he drink water, a thing that was going to be provided by the stream. Before dawn, they sensed a strong smell, and Captáin put one of her hands over his mouth, moving her head in the negative. Immediately he realized that a monster was very near them. When daylight begins, they saw the scale body of a giant dinosaur 2 meters away. She signaled him to crawl away, beginning her first. Lem was almost fainting in terror and moves very slowly away. When at the side of the stream, she murmured, run. They run for half an hour, arriving to an entanglement of bush that made impossible to keep walking by the side of that stream that was more a torrent of fast waters. Being inside the forest, the terrain was inclined downwards, so they began to run among the trees. 48. Amygdalodon. The forest becomes sparse and bushed and long grass continues. A faint line on the horizon tells them that another mountain chain was expecting them. Lem have now amazed that he throws against small animals, that when patiently skinned and disemboweled they roast near a fire that Captáin provides in scant minutes. Look. A bigger one. Captáin said, before dusk. It was an amygdalodon, that was knocked down with the maze ellipsis points. They skinned it and disemboweled and starts to roast in plain night. The smell could attract a carnivore. Lem commented. I have an acute accent to seen a big one in all day. Rest assured those big brutes must be kilometers away. Captáin replied, as she was still hungry and willing to eat. 2 hours later, they began eating the soft meat of a hind leg. She said, I never dreamt I would travel so far from our accustomed piece of land. Really I don't acute accent know what to expect now. Well, we have an acute accent too many problems in our way here. For me this planet was a bad place, but since I found you, I would never change it for all the gold in the universe. Lem said. She munched a bit more and asked. And what is gold? A heavy metal in a yellow color. In my society, a man with gold could change it for many things. Lem explained. What many things? Captáin asked. Clothes. Our clothes are strong. Your clothes seem to cover you not much. Lem explains. These clothes I am wearing are not from my people but from bad people that lives near the sea. Over there. And Lem pointed to the north side. Oh, I have never seen them. Captáin remarked, throwing a bone into the fire. Later, they make a shelter, where they went to sleep, warming up by the fire. At dawn they start the fire again and eat from the meat of the amygdalodon that was a big chunk. Nice place, here. We could stay longer. Lem commented. She smiled and said, nobody is pressing us. we can't stay. So, they stayed there for months, where they eat dinosaur eggs, fish from a creek and animals. The hut was being reinforced, and the time to leave the surroundings postponed, until an Achillobator appears in a late afternoon. Growling and stomping they leave that hut and run to the hills. What a pity. Now that I was thinking it was forever. Odine commented. We will find a better place, somewhere. Lem replied, looking at the nearest hill. At the next day they were climbing already, and at the summit they discovered many other hills reaching out to the horizon. Everyone was full of vegetation, and possibly with fruit trees. That afternoon they hunted an Argyrosaurus that was skinned and roasted soon afterwards. See? We still have luck. Lem said. Luck? What a cute accent is that? Odine asked, throwing more branches to the fire. Luck is when things goes your way. Bad luck is when no matter how hard you try, things just don't a cute accent to work for you. He explains to the native woman. Oh, I see. Well, I was lucky to know you, she said. It says lucky. I was lucky to know you. He corrected her. 50, whatever, she said, laughing. Ellipsis points. That night it rains and their shelter wasn't a cute accent too good to resist, so he said, we should have a big leather hide. I would put it over our heads. Perhaps we must search for a cave among rocks. In a cave there is always cover, Odine said. At the next day rain stopped at noon, and then they walked up the next hill, where there were many rocky formations but no cave at all. Fortunately, it didn't acute accent to rain by night. 2 big eggs were found, and he asked, do you know from which animal these eggs come from? Never seen eggs like these before. But I guess it belongs to a big animal, Odine said, cracking them and puts near a fire she was preparing minutes before. Some time later, they were cooked by the heat. Delicious. But I always think I acute accent am depriving a new being to be born, Lem said. She smiled and said, when I was a child I felt the same, as you do. But indeed, we pass over those facts, Odine said, crossing her legs. In my world people also forget these thoughts. They slaughter millions of animals to feed the populace. There is a minority that eats only vegetables. But they are a minority. Lem remembers. They walked for a week, always traversing by hills and around mountains, and at the end of that week, they saw the blue line of the sea. Look. The sea. Lem said. She was spellbound, because she had heard of it but never seen with her own eyes. 51, Chapter 5.